Hi, this is Scum and Mason with a video response to Idle Antichrist video about books. I hadn't planned on doing this, but I saw your video and I was really inspired, and I wanted to share some of my favorite reading because, like you, I discovered words and wordcraft and books and love of language at a very early age, and it's carried me through life. I'm a little older than you are, and I hope that's encouraging because it won't wear off. So I'm going to show you a few books, and I'm going to start with a difficult one, but it's one of my favorite books of all time. I've read it many, many times, and it's, can we see it? Gravity's Rainbow by Thomas Pynchon. It's not a novel for everyone. It's very difficult. It's prodigious. It's absolutely a work of genius. It will make you wonder how he did it, and it will also introduce you to a world that you didn't know was possible in a novel. I read this book and thought, I didn't know you could do that with a book. I had no idea that a novel could do what this book does. It's too long to go into, but it is a magnificent work of genius. It is a difficult book to read, but well worth the time working through it, because it is astounding. Next on the list, we have Thomas McGuane's The Bushwhacked Piano. Thomas McGuane is a word craftsman of few peers. He is funny, and this may be his funniest book, which is why it might be a good one to start with. But he's also serious. He writes about the decay of the American West, the modern day love affair with the Western myth and what's really happening in the West. He's a rancher in Montana, and he's able to speak the language of whatever person he is describing or whatever character he has created. In other words, if he writes about a cowboy, he speaks that cowboy's language. He knows the nomenclature, the jargon, and he's absolutely brilliant and engaging, funny as hell, and there's always weird sex in every one of these, in every book by McGuane. Next, we have my favorite British writer, Martin Amis. This book, Time's Arrow, is one of the most brilliantly crafted novels ever written. It is a completely underestimated novel, and everyone looks to Martin Amis as the author of London Fields as perhaps his greatest work. I'm here to tell you, this is his greatest work. Just to conceive this novel is a lifetime's worth of genius thinking. And the fact that he pulled it off so brilliantly, it also is probably the greatest novel ever written about the Holocaust. It has a conceit that I won't reveal because it's too much fun to discover on your own. But I will say that there are few books you'll ever read that have just the genius of construction that this novel has, and at the same time, it is absolutely compelling. It is a human story. It is terrifying. It is wonderful. It is poignant, and it is a work of genius by Martin Amis, who's also a very nice guy. I had the pleasure of meeting him. This book I also love a lot, Geek Love by Catherine Dunn. Catherine hasn't written a lot of books, but each one she writes is something really special and really worth checking into. Geek Love is her most acclaimed novel. It was a bestseller in the late 1980s in the United States. I think 1989 this may have come out. This is a very strange book, but it's a brilliant idea, a little bit of a scary idea, and it has a subtextual comment to be made about a lot of things. What it means to be human, what it means to be normal, what it means to love, what it means to be an outcast. And if you're like me, I have always been a bit of a social outcast throughout my life, and a bit of a nonconformist, and I hold iconoclasm above all other traits as things I admire. And this book really is inspiring because of its extreme iconoclasm and its extremity in a lot of different ways. Geek Love, Catherine Dunn, beautiful book. Next is a novel that is now starting to be recognized, I think, as one of the great American novels ever written. It won the Pulitzer Prize, which usually is a badge of mediocrity a lot of times, but this is a book that deserved every prize it ever won. And the man who wrote it, Michael Chabon, I started off not that crazy about, but after reading this book, I realize he is perhaps, he's probably the most brilliant American writer under 50 years old alive today in 2010. That book is this, The Amazing Adventures of Cavalier and Clay. It's another book that deals with the Holocaust in a sense, and it deals a lot with what it means to be an American Jew in the 20th century, what it meant to be an American Jew in the 20th century, and what it means to be an American Jew now, and what it means to be an American now. And this book is about comic books, ostensibly, about men who wrote and drew comic books in the early 1940s and from the 40s, the golden age of comics, all the way through to now, really. I mean, it has commentary on the importance of comic books. Often, comic books are the first literature any child reads. I know for me, they were the first books I ever read before I got into books. And that makes them very, very important. And Chabon sees that, and he isn't afraid to pronounce how important comic books really are and were, especially in America. And this book deals with the immigrant experience. It deals with the Holocaust. It deals with what it means to love someone, what it means to be loved, and who can love and how they can love. And it's just an amazing, amazing book, and very uplifting and so beautifully crafted. Chabon just has my absolute admiration for just being able to write an incredible story. It has a beginning, a middle, and an end. Not a lot of postmodern nonsense. It's a beautifully crafted novel in the true sense of the novel. And last, I'm going to mention another famous British writer who I think is just wonderful. I've only discovered him recently. Well, that's not true. I read The Wasp Factory in 1984 and was astounded by it. But I'd never read Ian Banks' science fiction, and I'm going to hold up this book, Matter, which is his most recent culture novel. Ian M. Banks. He writes about a mongrel human civilization out in the galaxy called the Culture. And this book is a fantastic, incredibly imaginative, and beautifully told story that's science fiction, but it's not goofy science fiction, and it's also not Star Warsy science fiction. It's about humanity and what happens when technology allows humanity to reach the stars, and what the universe is like, and he beautifully renders the worlds that this novel takes place on, from sub-technical, technological, basically steam age civilizations to those that fly about the universe at their will. Beautifully written, very, very funny, great sense of humor. He's a Scot, so of course he's got a great sense of humor, and very dry. And but this is probably, along with William Gibson, one of the greatest science fiction writers alive today. And that's my response. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you.